Hi everybody, Eve Everett here, and today we're going to cover how to resell art at either a specialty auction house or one of the big auction houses, and also getting free help for eBay. Several weeks ago, I found these two Tadanori Yoko pop art prints at a thrift shop, and I spent, I would say, more time than I would have liked trying to get a good idea on price, but I gotta tell you something, I'm stumped on these. Tadanori Yoko is a pop artist in Japan, and he is a prolific designer of posters. He does a lot of graphic art and artwork such as prints and posters. However, unfortunately for me, there's a few things that I do not have going for these prints. First of all, they're not posters, they're prints. Second of all, they have Tadanori Yoko's name at the bottom right, which I'll show you in a minute, but they don't have any penciled in signature or limited edition number or anything like that, which would have really been awesome. So the only thing I have to go on are the prints themselves. There are plenty of places you can go to research art you find out and about, and a couple of them that I use, first of all, I start out with eBay itself, and if I find nothing, which is typical, I look at Terapeak, and if I don't see anything there, or even if I do, then my next step is to look at liveauctioneers.com. You can sign up for a free account there and look at their sold auctions to get a flavor of what things you have may go for. But also I look at a website called Artsy and another one called invaluable.com, which used to be called Artfact, but now it's called invaluable.com. So I'm looking at Artsy here, and there's some posters and prints and lithographs up for sale, and of course they basically all say contact the gallery to get the price. The auctions don't really tell me anything, so from here I moved on to Invaluable to get a better idea, and also to figure out who would be ideal to, well, which auction house, in other words, would be among the ones that I would want to target. Perhaps they sell a lot of Tadanori Yoko, and they would be able to very quickly tell me whether I have a bunch of junk or whether I have something of value that would be either A, worth putting on eBay, or B, selling through their auction house at a specialty auction for Tadanori or for posters or graphic arts. Now, while I'm on invaluable.com looking around, I noticed that Tadanori Yoko artwork is all across the board. So not only do I have issues trying to figure out if my artwork that I have from him is really worth anything, but the values are so spread out that it's a little difficult for me to determine where mine would fall, even if I knew more about the particular provenance of the print, or indeed whether or not perhaps someone took a page out of a book, processed it in a manner that would make it look more like a print, and then put it on a flat board. The way that these were done were very professional looking, so I can't even find anything to relate back. All I know is that first one, the abstract with that man's face multiple times, that's like a self-portrait of Tadanori. So this is Tadanori Yoko having reached a climax at the age of 29, I was dead poster. And it sold for over $52,000 at the Swan Gallery. And so that's the highest priced item that I have seen so far. I also found this modernist poster for a company that Yoko did, and that one sold for $600 at the same gallery. And there are also other galleries where they sold for anywhere between $150 to $300 to several thousand, and then there are some that they just got passed on. And because I can't find any similarity between what I have and what is actually sold, I'm kind of stuck. So at that point, I have to make the decision, well, what's my next step here? Do I want to try to present this to a auction house? And if so, what would be the best one? And is there any way that I can get some sort of estimate or free appraisal of it? Because I'm not paying to get this looked at. As much as it's as cool as it is, I can't make myself do that. And there's no reason to. So in researching this artist, I noticed that Swan Auction House sells a lot of his works. And I noticed that they specialize in contemporary art and graphic design. They also do books and autographs and so forth. So this seems like a good house to contact. So what do I do next? Since I am interested in either selling at Swan or at least finding somebody to talk to about the artwork that I have, I find their selling at Swan page, and every auction house that sells online or that's large or a specialty auction house will have a link or a contact method by which you can click on it, and it will give you some of their basic terms and how to proceed in contacting them and getting some idea of whether or not your artwork or whatever else you have may be viable for auction at their particular auction house. What's interesting about these particular terms on their page is that they basically don't tell you who to contact, which is pretty inconvenient if you don't really know what to do next. Well, what you do next, typically, if they don't give you that information on the page, which actually they normally tell you, or at least give you a general direction on who specifically to contact, because the larger auction houses or the specialty auction houses, they generally have different departments. So for example, Swan has a poster department, they have an antiquarian and collectible book department, and so forth. So I go back and I look at the Swan Gallery auctions that were successful, and I find that since they came under some of the modernist poster auctions, that it's probably the best place to start is with the poster department. So I click through to the modernist poster auctions on Swan, and I find that at the top right-hand side there's a specialist that I need to contact, and his contact information is right there, phone number and email address. So I go back to my selling terms page and give it another quick look now that I know who I'm going to contact. I found out a couple of things. First of all, the most important thing is that any review would be free. They'll tell me what they think it's worth or not worth. And number two, that I can send pictures by email and get information that way. And it tells you what to provide in the email, and it's very important that you follow their protocol, because often if you don't, they will either just ignore it, or they might get back to you and say, hey, you got to give us more information. So it's better to do as much as you can or are willing to do anyway. But if you provide them the information they need and the pictures they need, they can usually make a decision and give you an idea fairly quickly. Also, what I generally do is if I don't hear from somebody in several days, I follow up with a phone call. So I'll hold on to that phone number that we saw and maybe follow up in a little while if I don't hear back from them. So in following their directions and drafting my email, I'm going to provide them several pictures of what I think are the best pictures that they'll need to give me an idea of whether they're worth anything or whether I can send them in. So when I take pictures of art, I'll generally do like a somewhat far away shot like this, and then I will take some pictures of things that are, I think, of importance to see for the person looking at it, so that they can give me a quick idea. Now, for purposes of this, I'm showing both pictures together. I would usually send two separate emails, one for each item. In the first email, I would say, hey, I have, here's my list. I have 2 items, and I'm going to include pictures of the second item in the next email. Don't overdo it with pictures because, oh, and keep in mind that depending on the size of the pictures, you kind of have to be aware of that stuff, because if they're too big, they're not probably going to get into his email. So, use your judgment there. So in trying to figure out what I'm going to send to this gentleman in terms of pictures, the first thing I'm going to do is kind of take a close look at it and decide for myself. You want to include things like any signatures, and you want to include any damage, and if there's any handwriting, whether it's in pencil or ink, you want to provide that as well. And again, this is I would say a self-portrait. I don't know what he's saying. That's not really important for purposes of getting the estimate. However, I do know a couple things. Number one, this is not hand signed in any way. And number two, on the bottom right, there is his name. And beyond that, and beyond the fact that that is indeed his face, I don't know. I know very little else about this. So as I said, down on the lower right is his name. So I would take a close-up of that. And I would also take, again, a close-up of any flaws or any handwriting on it, any other information I may have about it that was told to me or given to me. I will relay that to the specialist in the email. I don't have anything beyond this print, however. Here you can see that on the back of the print, it's posted on like a black poster board, a thick poster board. There's like a scratch/indent in it that does not go all the way through, and thankfully does not show up as kind of like a ridge on the other side where the print is. Then, because they have asked for dimensions, I'm going to very carefully measure the artwork. I'm going to measure the total dimensions, including the size of the quote-unquote frame there and the dimensions of the print in it. And again, we'll repeat the whole process again with this one as well. So again, I'm going to draft the email in accordance with their requirements that I showed you on their selling page that we went to. And I'm going to, again, read it over, make sure I provide sufficient pictures to show the item, and I'm going to ask him, what he thinks, if he knows anything about the particular print, and what he thinks it's worth. And hopefully, most of the time, someone will get back to you and say, one way or another, and it'll generally give you an idea. For example, he might say, hey, it's only worth like, $100 tops, so I'm not interested. Or he may come back and say, holy crap, you got something really fantastic. I want to see it. And at that point, you kind of have to arrange for it to be sent to the auction house. But if they really want it, they'll take care of that for you. That's something that you may have to negotiate. All right, everybody, and there you have it. Next time I'll do a segment on what to do when you can't recognize the name of the artist because of their crappy handwriting. There are some ways to do that, and also to identify the general genre of what it falls into. And there you have it. I will update this video once I get a response back from the auction gallery. Good hunting, everybody.